And we're live. What a way to open.
You went live in the middle of that?
No, I waited until we were done laughing a bit. What's going on, Seven? How are you?
I'm good. I'm reliving some memories because of one of the stories we're going to be talking about tonight, and it's got me tickled. I'm not gonna lie.
I was gonna say early 2000s, but I mean technically we're still in the early 2000s.
Yeah. But we'll never see the late ones.
Yeah, true story.
Unless some stuff changes pretty dramatically.
I don't know. I saw an X-Files episode last night that that apparently we're nearing being able to download my consciousness into a computer.
That was X-Files, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that one. I know there's some Black Mirror episodes about stuff like that. And,
I mean, that's the new X-Files, right? Is the Black Mirror series pretty much. Anyway. Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Hello, Kingston, Jamaica. It is March. The hell is it? It's March the 26th, 2024. It is a Tuesday. Believe it or not, we are on schedule. Uh-oh.
Hey.
So this is the night we were supposed to be podcasting. We are doing the thing. I hit you up this morning. I actually started last night. I was like, here's some stories. I got some ideas. And then hit you up this morning, and we were both digging it. So here we are. Worked a full day. You know, did the thing. Ran through the gambit, and now we are here.
You people
tonight.
in your real life jobs.
Yeah, well, this is Real Talk with Hapa S3VYN, and you know, if you are someone who likes to watch stuff live, you should be watching us on YouTube. You're probably listening to us in podcast land now. Next time we do one of these, follow us on Twitter and stuff, and you can catch us on YouTube. So, Hapa, how you been, buddy? I don't want to jump right into this first subject. I'm gonna dance around this for a minute.
Oh man,
just to catch up, see how things are going, because we got it for real. Look, subject-wise, this one is going to be, I think, interesting, right? We're going to talk about self-sexualization online. We're going to talk about Krispy Kreme coming to McDonald's. We're going to talk about a bloop noise in Noah. And if you don't know what the bloop was, shame on you. Where have you been? But it's amazing, and we're going to talk about it. Then we're going to do our normal stuff, you know, what you're watching, what you're hearing, what you're playing. And we're going to review some of Hapa's rules for living. So, you doing good, bud? How's the weather out there in Texas?
It's been beautiful. It's been comfy. It hasn't been too hot. It hasn't been too cold. We've had some storms roll through periodically, but the temperature's been comfy, which has been lovely because they could just open the windows and not run the AC and have that $4 million power bill and all that stuff. And, you know, getting out there doing the spring work in the yard and living, you know. What about you?
Yeah.
How are you and yours doing out there?
I mean, pretty much the same. It's been really nice weather, so we've had the door open, and the dogs love it because the dogs, they just come and go at that point. They run around, and they bark at the neighbors' dogs, and it's just a big, happy family. But I don't know if this is the way it is there. But here, around this time of year, pollen is.
Oh yeah.
I think it's the pine pollen, and it is yellow. Everything's yellow. My truck, which is black, is a weird shade of green because of the yellow on top of it.
Have you guys had storms coming through, all like in between?
Yeah, we had some last night that came through and knocked the pollen down a little bit, so today was particularly nice because you could breathe. But here, when you drive, you can actually see, it looks like smog or smoke. It's that kind of,
But you guys have the
happening, like rah.
I can't remember the name of the tree, but it's like where you're at all the way down the Gulf Coast. There's some tree that if they shake it, like a cloud comes off of it. I can't never remember what it is.
I've seen videos of that. I don't know what it is, but it feels like pine trees right now. It's pretty rough.
Oh, here
you've got a constant.
That's what those storms have been nice of, right? Though I mean,
because they're knocking down the pollen.
Yeah.
So tonight, Hapa's drink is, do you have the recipe up? It's the Morning Glory Fizz. And I've actually done a pretty bad job of the past couple of episodes about going through the recipe and talking about the drink. But if people don't know, we name every one of our episodes after a whiskey drink of some sort. And today's is Morning Glory Fizz. Now, Hapa and I said originally that we were going to try to make some of these drinks
Yeah.
And I think you hit like 3 of them and I hit 2. But
Yeah.
this was one that we looked at and we're like, okay, that's very interesting, and I'm not making it. So, Apple, what is a Morning Glory Fizz?
Well, to be clear, first of all, if we tried to make every one of these, I mean, you guys might not mind. I don't think I'd mind either, but the amount of stuff that would be growing in my little bar area would be just ridiculous. But anyway,
this one's a good example of that issue.
Yeah. So Morning Glory Fizz is 2 ounces of scotch, preferably blended, which we talked about this before the episode started. I thought it was kind of funny that this said preferably blended, and I think you correctly mentioned why. It's maybe to knock it down a little bit, but I was like, why not just use bourbon then? Anyway.
If you're going to use scotch, it's presumably to have the edge, right? You got scotch, then you got rye whiskey, and then you got bourbon. But if you're trying to do a blended scotch, it's got to be to get some of the peaty
and
out
that's
of it. I don't know.
thing that kind of I would probably have to try it to understand, but because this drink seems like it's meant to be a little bit more creamy and citrusy, not that kind of peat to it. So I don't understand without drinking it where the lure is of. Anyway, 2 ounces of scotch, preferably blended, half an ounce lemon juice, half an ounce lime juice, half an ounce simple syrup. Which, by the way, that's quite a bit of simple syrup for a drink along with lime and lemon juice. It's kind of interesting combo. 1 egg white. So if you guys don't know, a lot of drinks have egg white in it, and it's meant to when you shake it, it froths a little bit, and so it adds a little bit of. When I was bartending, I used to call it culture. I called it foo-foo when
a little culture.
Yeah, I called it foo-foo when I was a bartender.
A little culture.
3 to 4 dashes of absinthe, which this is the first cocktail I think I've ever heard call for dashes of absinthe, so it's really made me interested in there. Now that I'm looking at those ingredients, by the way, Seven, that actually kind of makes me wonder. The absinthe with that herby kind of flavor to it with scotch, I'm kind of wondering maybe they kind of go together. And then the lime juice, lemon juice, and simple syrup kind of mellow it out. I don't know. But now I'm really interested, actually, kind of curious about buying.
I wonder
absinthe.
if we walked in, there's a few fancy. Look, I know where you are. There's some fancy bars. There's a few fancy bars around here. I wonder if we walked in and asked for a Morning Glory Fizz, if we would get that drink. Because I would actually kind of like to try it.
Well, unless you went to some of the speakeasies here in Austin, I think regular bars, they'd probably be like, "You ain't from around here, are you, boy?"
Yeah. We probably got 4 bars here that wouldn't look at you cross-eyed. I know there is, in particular, one speakeasy here that would be like, "Oh yeah." I guarantee you, the guy behind that bar is like, because I've been in there, and he would be like, "Yes." So I don't know. It's worth trying. I also you ever seen It's a Wonderful Life?
Oh yeah.
The movie It's a Wonderful Life, when the angel comes back, right? And he's like, goes to the bar, and he's like, "I haven't had alcohol in so long." He orders like a good spiced wine or something like that. And the bartender's like, "We serve hard liquor."
Hard liquor.
So yeah, that's probably how.
We're getting a little off topic here, but if you're ever in Phoenix, Arizona, and for those of you that are in Arizona, if you have never been, there's a cocktail parlor. It's called a cocktail parlor called Bitter and Twisted, and you have to go. Bitter and Twisted every single week has a different themed menu. They literally dress the entire place up differently depending on the theme that they have. They have a whole bunch of drinks, but anyway, the drinks are amazing. The service is phenomenal. Food's great. But yeah, check out Bitter Twisted in Phoenix, Arizona, if you ever do. This is the type of place that would probably, the guy would instantly know. I bring that up because Pisco is a liquor that I fell in love with in Peru, and it's made from grapes. They basically take grapes, they ferment it like you would do to wine, and they take it further into liquor, and it becomes like a clear liquor. And there's a drink that I fell in love with there, which is called a Pisco Sour, and Pisco is impossible to get here in the States. And I was at Bitter and Twisted with a friend of mine, and the guy was like, "What would you like?" I was like, "I don't know, man. I'm kind of trying to figure. He's like, whatever you can come up with, we have it. I was like, please. So you're telling me you have pisco? He's like, yeah, we have 7 kinds. I was like, of course you do. I was like, where did you get pisco? And he's like, well, obviously Peru. I was like, obviously.
I mean, obviously.
Anyway,
I was in a speakeasy once in San Diego, and someone. Do I remember the name? Absolutely not. But someone in San Diego may know this place, and it was at the time it was in the back of a sports bar, and there were a false wall in the back with kegs. And you had to find your way back there, and it was really kind of cool. And it's funny because it was like, the best bar in San Diego is at this address, and we go and it's like this dumpy little sports bar, and the Padres were playing the Braves, and it was like,
really?
what? There's no way. There's no way. But one of the people in my party, we were celebrating. He went to the restroom, and the back wall opened, and he saw what was going on, and he slipped in and got us an invite. Even it was supposed to be, reservations only or some sort of something. Anyway, we got in, and when we sat down at the bar, the bartender or the mixologist or whatever they prefer to be called, walks up and starts asking us about so it's 4 of us in the party. Bartender walks over, starts asking us about our stories. Why are you here? What's your life story? Just getting information from us and making drinks. Never asked anything about what we wanted or what we liked, and would slide a drink in front of us. Each one of us. We would taste it, and he would watch our faces, and if it wasn't on point, he would take it and pour it out, and he would start another one. And
Jesus.
After about 10 minutes of work, he had drinks for each of us with no name, right? And it was amazing to be to have someone do that. He stayed with us the whole time. He didn't wait on anybody else. Every group had their own bartender, and to this day, that stands out as the best experience I've had.
That's pretty cool.
Fancy mix. I've had some fancy drinks, but that was a bit different. And very cool.
That's pretty awesome.
So anyway, it was great. So it's the Morning Glory Fizz. So maybe we can find a way to get that at some point.
Oh, and the Fizz is you top it with soda. Sorry, I didn't get that little last little bit of there. My bad. What you drinking?
Well, I'm having a straight Glenfiddich, so.
Hey, all right.
Got to finish that bottle. Mel's not going to finish it for me. She is.
The look.
She is not
so
a fan.
We'll talk about this later, but Seven and his wife have been streaming on Saturdays together, and she had a glass of that. Not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before. And at first sip, I saw her gears grind to a halt.
She promised me that she would. I was like, look, we're going to do the stream. You're going to have a drink. Just try it. It's scotch. It's a single malt scotch. It's a 14-year, right? Like, just try it. I know the first couple of sips are going to be a little bit new. But you get to the end of the glass,
that's a
don't
good
ever
word.
Judge a drink. Yeah, don't ever judge a drink before you finished it, right? And she, it took her the entire stream to finish that one drink, which is not Mel.
Some people scotch can be a bit much. I'm one of those people. I have a very, very nice bottle of scotch sitting on my bar right now that I bought 8 years ago.
Oh my.
I think one glass has been poured from it. Because the nose on it and the taste of it, it just, to me, it's like if I wanted to have that in my mouth, I'd smoke a cigar. Like, it's literally just too much.
It's got a cigar. Yeah, that's not a bad.
Yeah. So,
fair.
But that's just for
fair.
me too, because I'm kind of I'm a super taster, so that stuff hits me a lot harder than a lot of people.
Yep.
So.
Well, and we've talked about this. We both prefer bourbon, which is a much smoother, fuller body drink. And then you got your Tennessee whiskeys, which are, one thing. You got your rye whiskeys, which are a different thing. Then you got your corn liquor, which is a different thing. And then you've got your scotch, and that is a very distinctive, sharp flavor. That if you're not into it, you're not into it. Especially single malts, right? That's the thing. And she was definitely not into it. All right, so we're 15 minutes in. I don't know how long this conversation we're about to start is going to take. It may take the rest of this time, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But in a bit of research that will surprise absolutely no one who is listening to this podcast, a group, Humanities and Social Sciences Communications, which is a psychology journal, has done some research, and they were investigating sexualized content on Twitch. Now, before I continue with that specific thing, you and I have noted, both on podcasts, on live streams, and even more to each other, about we've noted the decline in Twitch over the past some amount of time into an over-sexualized site.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this, and that's why I'm saying this should surprise no one. And if you read the article, and we'll post the link to the article, but if you read the article, the amount of times they say they were surprised by the results, it surprises me.
I think we both commented on that, actually. Was the fact that I laughed because the amount of times that they said they were surprised. And it's like, have you never, like, you obviously never watched Twitch before. Like
it's I mean, it really has gotten to be that way. So I'll read through some notes here, and then we'll just have a conversation about it. But Twitch's daily viewership is about 3 million people.
Wow.
And so these folks, they did an analysis of around 2,000 live streams, and they were trying to uncover a trend, which is women are more frequently and intensely self-sexualizing than men. And they're really looking for kind of a broader pattern that they're calling pornification in digital content, right, and to lure audiences. And so it's a really fascinating set of studies, and there's a lot of points I want to get into here.
Yeah.
But kind of to hit on how they did it, they had a sample of 1,920 video clips from Twitch, right? They were sorting by popularity in the most frequent categories. Now, here's where you're going to get into a bit of trouble. So they started, they went from September to October of 2022, and they were looking at the IRL categories. So it was IRL, it was just chatting, it was ASMR, and it was pools, hot tubs, and beaches. So these are the categories they chose. So of the categories available to be chosen on Twitch, they chose categories that are kind of known, to a large degree known, outside of just chatting, right? Just chatting can be a lot of things. But outside of that, they're kind of known for this sexualization. And so what they found is, to a very, to them, alarming rate, women were self-sexualizing on Twitch more than men. And what they meant by self-sexualizing, they go to define it, which is they are acting in a manner where they're wearing less clothes, or they are being sexually suggestive, or they're doing something on the stream that is using their sexuality to drive interest. Now, Hapa, before we get into like the real conversation here, is this surprising to you as it was to these researchers?
Like I said before, I don't even understand how you could use the term "we were surprised to find out." Like if anybody that watches Twitch on a regular basis, or even casually, when you bring Twitch up, it gives you, if you just go to the base twitch.tv site, it gives you suggestions. And I implore people that don't watch Twitch regularly to do this, and I'm going to do it right now. Obviously, we're not going to show it.
Right now.
We're not going to show it on the podcast, but right now it shows live channels, and the third one in line is literally a pools and hot tub stream for me. Now, keep in mind, I have never intentionally watched that subject or anybody that does that. So for Twitch to push that to me is literally them pushing that content specifically.
Yep.
And if you go right below it, it's hilarious. There is a girl playing Fortnite, and I don't even know if she's playing the game. She's very scantily clad. I mean, just so on and so forth. You can see it for yourself. I don't need to go on and on about it.
I mean,
and to be clear, yeah,
I pulled it up because you said that, and I was going to look at my recommended channels, because you and I have noted before how this goes. And buddy of ours, so the recommended channels, that's basically people I don't follow, right, or I don't have a relationship with. The guy Game Prodigy, we know, but Game Prodigy streaming a game that we both play and stream. That's the first suggestion. The next one is a just chatting person who I know what they're chatting about. The third one is pools, hot tubs, and right. And the fourth one is pools, hot tubs, and the fifth one is pools, hot tubs, and these are not categories I look at.
Yeah.
I don't go to just chatting, right? Because the only thing I watch outside of gaming is Risky Biscuit Band. They're amazing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's the music category. So I will actually go to the music category quite a bit, and I don't get recommendations for music.
What's even more
So-
annoying to me is I've hit do not recommend this content to me on
I have to.
I don't even know how many 20, 30, 40, 50, like, so at some point Twitch is just like, well, whatever you recommend, we or don't recommend to not recommend, or you know, say don't recommend, we don't care, right? So
Yeah,
it really
right.
So to be clear, we'll get into more of the weeds of this topic, but like Twitch drives this narrative because they know that they can make money off of this. Like
100%.
gaming, I would not be surprised if gaming, even though Twitch originally was created for that, probably doesn't bring the money in like those other subjects do. I bet you.
Well, and this is really part of the over the last however many years, right? Call it 30, 40, 50 years. Women have been objectified sexually in media.
Yeah.
And there have been a lot of studies into why that's bad. And I would say in my lifetime, notably the last 12, 13, 14 years, we're making progress away from that, where there can be women in media, like movies, shows, whatever, and they're not there just to be sexualized. So
Yeah.
for an awful long time, that was, you know, women were objectified, they were minimized in film and well, all mass media. And they were done. It was done in a way that was kind of gross. And there's been a lot of research into why that was a bad thing. And so now you've got this question. You know, it's been a long time of saying, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. That's bad, bad, bad. And now you have a situation where there are people doing what they're calling self-sexualization, right?
Yeah.
So there's no one, when you're talking about traditional media, these portrayals are usually controlled by someone else, right? It's the producer, the director, the studio, the whatever. And that imposition has led to a lot of really, really skeezy stuff. There's plenty of lawsuits and people can go research a bunch of stuff. But
Right.
now we have people self-sexualizing, right? And we have women doing it, at least when you're looking at this research from Twitch. I will say anecdotally, my research indicates that it's true, that you have women doing it at a far greater rate than men. And so the real interesting question is, while you would say, hey, I support someone's right, I think both of us would say, yeah, I support your right to do whatever you want to do. Right? It's
For
You
sure.
do whatever you want to do. This is you forever, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially with the internet.
Right, you're not getting back from that. Right, once you're doing that, you're doing it. And
Yeah.
I support your right to do it, but it is created, at least on Twitch, it used to be pockets of skeeziness, and there is an overwhelming amount of skeeziness
Yeah.
around Twitch now, and that spills over into other places. And I just can't see my daughter. Let's say my daughter comes to me, she said, this is what I want to do. I'm going to tell her first and foremost, you do whatever you want to do, but I'm going to tell you that the community that you're about to create around that is not a community you're going to want to be caught in if you're out in public.
Yeah.
The people who are going to be coming there and giving you, yes, you will make some money, 100%. But if you're ever out in public and surrounded by 300 people from your community, how's that going to feel?
Right. Right.
Because that's the community you're building. And it's very concerning to these researchers. It is interesting to see how they kind of brought it out. You know, they were talking about the differentiation that they're making is between men sexualizing and women. And I will tell you, it's very rare for men to do that, and very common for women. And that was the thing they said surprised them most.
I
But
don't
no
understand
one should be
though.
surprised by this.
Why?
Right.
Yeah. Why would you be surprised? And to be clear, neither Seven nor I are looking at this from a sexist point of view. I'm like you said, if you're down to do that kind of thing, 100%, you go do you. I have no problem with that.
Sure.
Like case in point, I think we're going on 4 or 5 months ago. Maybe it was before the new year. Twitch originally announced that all of that content was going to be categorized under art at some point. Which,
Yeah.
look, man, and I'm not, softcore porn is softcore porn. It's not art, okay? And that's essentially what a lot of these show me streamers are basically doing on stream. Like, yes, I'm not talking about the streamer that's out there killing it playing Call of Duty or whatever, and they just have a tank top on, which is normal style for women. I'm talking the girl that literally goes and puts a bikini on and is sitting in a hot tub or licking a microphone or that's the type of content I'm talking about. To be clear, and because I don't want anybody to think that I'm like, oh, I hate women streamers. Like that's not the point I'm making. Nobody is hopping on Twitch to go see Hapa rolling around in a blow up swimming pool full of Jello. Like nobody is. No one is going to be paying to watch that. Now, Amaranth can go out there and she can go do whatever she wants, and she's making so much money that she was able to buy a town. You know what I mean?
Buy a town.
She did. She bought a town in Texas somewhere, a little one street light town, like literally. Okay. But anyway, but I digress. And then there are outliers out there too that get out of that media and actually direct back towards purely gaming streaming. Like Sasha Grey is a perfect example of she actually was in porn and she divulged herself of that entire industry and now streams games, and she does YouTube cooking videos and travel videos, like very actually wholesome and hilarious content. Like, so she's one of those ones that I think recognized that this wasn't, like you said, that wasn't what she wanted to think about, like a decade later running into somebody that is searching her content, that type of content out there. It's like people don't think about that stuff, but maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't care? Is that where we are?
Maybe not. And neither of us are prudes, and we're both straight white dudes. So speaking from a place of privilege in a lot of ways, to say I don't want my 13-year-old son having to look at you in a hot tub, I just don't.
Right.
And I don't care if that's Hapa. I don't care if that's a woman. I'm not saying that that's limited to anybody. I'm saying that when my kid goes to Twitch to watch Minecraft videos, right, that being assaulted on the front page of Twitch with 5 videos of various, human beings scantily clad rolling around in hot tubs and, licking a banana-shaped microphone is weird. It's just weird. And we do have a new one of the things I think super interesting that this research, or this article about the research kind of closes with, is talking about Twitch's culpability in this sexualization, because they pay these people. And I thought that was a really interesting viewpoint. Twitch, what they're contending is Twitch, Amazon, right, has a responsibility to police this in some form or be clear about the rules of it in some form. Because at the end of the day, these people are making money how? Because Twitch is paying, right? And we lose that sometimes, and we think about, oh, someone's popular on Twitch and people are giving them money. No. People are giving Twitch money.
Yep.
Now Twitch is turning around and giving you money. So Twitch has done a really amazing job of removing themselves kind of intellectually as the middleman here, right? Yeah. Where, even when we stream and people subscribe, we're like, oh, thanks for the sub, because we're getting money from you, right? No, we're getting money from Twitch, and you gave money to Twitch, and Twitch paid us. So there really is an interesting kind of, what is Twitch paying their content creators to create? Well, when you look at the front page, and you got, in my case, 5 out of 6 recommendations are hot tubs and ASMR stuff. That sure looks like what Twitch is paying people to do and trying to drive people to do.
Well, I would say that's definitely proof that they know what their product is that's pulling people in. So, of course, they are going to push it, even if you said you don't want to see that content, right? And I think that's the other thing you're running into now. You're starting to see it pop up here in the States, at least, too, is government agencies or local governments are starting to ask the question, why don't we have age verification for a lot of this content, right? And this was, so originally where this topic came up, I DM'd Seven and I said, hey, how do you feel talking about the fact that Texas just banned Pornhub? in the entire state of Texas. Like,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to go to Pornhub. Now, granted, there are a million other porn sites, but that is a huge precedence to me that you're setting. And to be clear, the reason Texas did that wasn't because I've seen a lot of people, Texans are just fuddy-duddies and blah, blah. No, the point being, if you're a minor, you don't have any kind of age verification, and you can go to that website. Try it. They don't care. They don't care who's if it's a 6-year-old kid, right? They don't care.
Yep.
And that's what Texas was trying to litigate towards, was saying that these sites need to have some kind of required age validation verification. And in my opinion, Twitch should be the same way. You can go on Twitch right now and create an account in 2 seconds and be on watching essentially softcore porn, right, on Twitch.
And that's really that really is the rub to me, right? Because Twitch was not that, and Twitch is not known for that, right? Pornhub, right? Pornhub is the site that got banned in Texas, and you've got other states talking about different things to do. Pornhub, pretty clear what that site's about,
right?
You know?
Yeah,
and not a lot of question there. Now, Twitch, on the other hand, did not rise to fame as a place to go find naked people. That is not what Twitch was known for. And so there's look, I'm in this boat too. I've got a 13-year-old son, like I said, wants to go watch Minecraft videos or Hearts of Iron or whatever game he's playing with his friends at the time. And he wants to go watch a streamer, and he's seeing this stuff too. It actually had led to me having to have some conversations with him about how some of that stuff is acceptable and not acceptable, and what I think is acceptable and what is not, and how we choose to act and behave. And Twitch really wasn't the thing I expected to be. It's not why I'm there, if that makes sense, right? It's really easy to get on the internet and find naked people if that's what you want to find. And there's a lot of places that provide that. Age verification, sure, I'm here for it. Especially with as addictive as the internet and apps and stuff like that, as addictive as they are built to be nowadays. I would say that, age verification for a lot of reasons. But Twitch could either have to verify age or just get rid of that sort of content. Right? Either one of those would actually be okay with me, because I'm talking about a website where people watch other people play Grand Theft Auto. And I'll be honest, I don't have a problem with that. Is there violence? Yes. Is there cussing? Yes. Are there adult themes? Yes. Is there all this? Yes. What's going on over there is very not that. It is a really weird thing. And I would encourage you to make a throwaway account on Twitch. Otherwise, you'll be recommended forever to watch hot tubs and whatever.
God.
But go look and see what some of this is, and see what these researchers found surprising. And I do picture these researchers in like their 1950s style,
Never seen Twitch in a day in their life.
Just pearl clutching. Oh my! Just like completely beside themselves, and they're like, "What is ASMR?" And they go look, and it's like, "Oh my!"
Why are they licking those plastic ears? I don't understand.
And it's interesting because one of the things they threw out in the research was they only kept video clips where people were on screen. So a human being had to be on screen. They did not keep, and this is something I'm triggered by, they did not keep anything where the person was a cartoon or the person was not on screen or whatever. The sexualization of cartoons on Twitch is also a for real thing. So they missed out. The sexualization that they're talking about is probably even worse than what they indicated in this one piece of research.
And so this brings up a whole nother subject that we may need to talk about on the next podcast, because I know you and I could both talk about this for a very long time. And I joked that I was going to tag Joe Rogan when I posted on social media that we were going live, but recently one of his guests was talking specifically about how there appears to be a grassroots push to make like schools phoneless zones. Like you're not allowed to have a phone in the school, which to me is a good idea, because phones are a distraction. You should be at school to learn science or history or math or whatever, not surfing Twitter or Facebook or whatever other TikTok, those things.
It's TikTok.
That shouldn't be going.
It's TikTok.
Yeah, I was like, my brain couldn't brain because I don't have an account, nor do I care about TikTok. But yeah, so there is a grassroots movement, and Joe Rogan was very skeptical that this is something that will ever change. That he thinks that it's like going to just get worse, and we have to figure out how to either stop it or change it. And the guest was very clearly saying, no, all it requires is parents. Parents need to start being more involved, which, as mentioned here in chat by Rita, is a perfect example. I've been saying for literally 20 years now, in my opinion, like for the longest time, and it's crazy that I'm saying 20 years now it's been going on, but the babysitter has become a tablet or a phone, or you go to the store and like, I remember when my kids were very small, we went grocery shopping. We gave them the phone because they would focus on the phone, not grabbing stuff off cabinets or whatever, but that's turned into a monster of a thing that we do now. So your kids are literally glued to these devices while they're in situations where they need to be glued to a professor or a teacher. Like, these things are something that I think grassroots wise we need to think about. And honestly, this content also doesn't help developmentally for young folks either. Like, it actually does, and has been proven, and studies have shown that this content actually kind of stunts the regular mental growth of individuals, and it's just become too easy.
It creates so many problems, right? The addictive nature of technology, and if anyone thinks that companies are not doing it on purpose, you're crazy. We have known how to make human beings addicted to things for quite some time. The entire 50s, 60s, and 70s movement against cigarettes, right? We've known how to make people addicted.
Yeah.
The 80s and the 90s roll around, we realized how big of a tool addiction can be to sell a product. The 80s, 90s roll around, we begin to learn how to get people psychologically and mentally addicted to things, right? So there's a different aspect there. Then rolls around technology and the internet and the ability to addict people to content that is free to create and almost free to distribute. And it has created a new problem that hopefully the next generation of folks, right? Every generation makes the problems the next generation has to solve. And hopefully they're going to get serious about solving them, because things like addictive technology combined with the type of content that we know causes body dysmorphia issues, causes psychological stunted growth, causes all kinds of life dissatisfaction, depression, all these things that we know this causes in people who are, hormonally imbalanced and in development. And we're literally fire hosing it into their mouths.
Yeah.
With things like, come watch our gaming website. Here's a hot tub.
Yeah. Not even playing a game. Like,
no, probably never played a game.
Yeah. I don't know.
So,
at the end of the day, I'm just like, well, they're not going to change. Twitch isn't going to change. They aren't going to disallow that content. I'm positive that they're making far too much money. You know what I mean? Like, if you look, if you go to Twitch right now and you order by highest viewer numbers, I'm willing to believe that in the top 10, multiple are going to be that content, if not all the top 5, right?
Yeah, and Lobo brings up, I think this is going to be interesting, right? Because it's a conversation I've had in my house very recently. The body dysmorphia has been around for a long time. Sure, magazine covers, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about how many magazine covers you would have seen in 1992.
Exactly.
Now think about how many phones and screens are around now. That's how much more common it is. And so, yes, if it was a problem then, it is a bigger problem now. And it's an unending stream. You may have spent 20 minutes looking at a magazine. Kids literally spend 6 and 7 hours a day on their phones. So it is absolutely, it is a, everything scales. This is something when I'm consulting with companies, I tell you. If we were talking and you were a small company and you were like, hey, we want to be super successful, the word scale is going to come out, right? And what that means is it's growth on an exponent. So it's like I didn't grow by 1 or 2%. I grew by 100%, then 100%, then 100%. That's scale, and it creates a curve that you want to follow, right, to become huge. And what I tell every single company is the same thing. Well, everything scales, including your problems. So if you don't solve your problems now, they're just going to get as big as your success.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
when we're talking about these kinds of things, we're just scaling the problem. We're just making the problem bigger. We're taking things like,
for sure,
body dysmorphia and saying, let's do it at scale. But there's not more people, right? There's not more kids, right? The same number of kids are getting that much more content.
Well, and that's the thing is like you brought up a perfect point talking about, the magazines and stuff like that and scaled to phones. So do you know what the average teenager spends on a device during the day right now? What the actual number is?
I don't know the actual number, no.
Almost 9 hours.
Ooh.
Recent report found that teenagers spend an average of 8 hours, 39 minutes per day on screens.
Say that number again.
8 hours, 39 minutes per day.
Ooh.
So if you think your kid gets up at 7 a.m. to get ready for school or whatever, and they go to bed at, say, 11 o'clock at night, because let's be honest, you can set a bedtime, but they're probably still rolling around and all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about a 15-hour, 14-hour day, and 8 hours and 39 minutes of that is spent looking at screens. So the amount of content that they are getting bombarded with is significantly higher than when you and I were kids. Significantly higher.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, going from that conversation where apparently there's a lot of people online, and what's interesting is, maybe to put a bow on that, one of the reasons I've heard and I've been told and I've seen that so many women fought so hard not to be sexualized and objectified in media is because it put them under the control, financially and otherwise, of a patriarchal system.
Right.
A system in which they were disadvantaged. A system in which if they didn't perform a very specific role, they had no place. That's the problem. And what's interesting now with the self-sexualization is that is encouraging the same system, because when you're talking about where you're getting your money, you're talking about why you're doing your thing. If you watch, and you and I have watched, some of these folks, they just have to escalate how much more extreme they're willing to get a little bit more money and to make themselves a little bit differentiated from the next person over to get a little bit more views. And it is exacerbating that issue. It's making the issue of a patriarchal system where you have no place in it unless you're objectified is now just
and that's
even
where
worse than it was
You get
before.
things like OnlyFans.
Absolutely. 100%.
The amount of wealth that has been gathered and grown from that one specific website is just insane. I remember I looked at the wealth that has come from that website a few months ago. I don't know. I was just curious. And it's staggering to me that website, how much it pulls in on a regular basis. Anyway, sorry.
So I have a solution to all this.
Oh.
And it is Krispy Kreme donuts
are
soon to be sold at McDonald's.
Krispy Kreme!
Okay, sorry. I wish Seven could hear it because it would be way more impactful. But yeah.
And if anyone can tell us where that clip came from,
oh man,
you win something. I don't even know what you win. Something. We'll talk nice about you when you're not around.
Right?
But Krispy Kreme donuts are about to be sold at McDonald's.
So at first I didn't understand why. I didn't, because I also didn't think about. First of all, I haven't had McDonald's. I don't even remember the last time I've had. It's been years. And I forgot that they even have like coffee and breakfast stuff. So I guess it makes sense. But
hey, it's a one-stop shop for stopping your heart. I promise.
Oh my God, yeah.
You imagine going in and get, what was the Donald Trump meal that he had? It was 2 Big Macs and 2 fish sandwiches or something like that from McDonald's.
I didn't even know he had a meal.
Yeah, there's like a meal that apparently he gets. It's like 2 Big Macs, 2 fish sandwiches, and like a large chocolate shake or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
There was this challenge out for a minute when he was president, and people were like, I'm going to go try to get that meal and eat it. And there's so few people could actually knock it down. And now you're
Well,
like,
he's
give
a
me
big boy.
Krispy Kreme donut with that. He's a big boy. And now you're like, hey, give me some Krispy Kreme donuts. And, you know, it's on the surface very interesting, right? Because it's, yeah, sure, get a Krispy Kreme donut. They're going to have 3 types of donuts. It's going to be the glazed, I think it's the chocolate iced with sprinkles, and then it's like the chocolate iced with the cream filled, which is, oh God, but it's so much sugar. Look, I'm a Krispy Kreme donut fanatic. I love Krispy Kreme donuts.
Oh, you're going to like what I talk about later then. Okay.
I don't eat a lot of sweets, but man, I love a Krispy Kreme donut, and I try to avoid them. People will bring them into the office and they'll put them on the table, and I'm like,
You can't avoid it, man. You just got to handle your fears up front and head on.
I've
man.
done pretty well. But I don't go to McDonald's a lot either. So to your point, I don't eat a lot of McDonald's. Krispy Kreme donuts being there will not get me to a McDonald's.
Nope.
And I want to talk about like just the concept of it, you know, because you got Wendy's with Cinnabon, you got other companies doing similar stuff. But I want to think about something with you, okay? Because here's where my head went. All right, Krispy Kreme and McDonald's. Memes aside. Take all the memes and put them over here. The jokes.
Right.
Cool. McDonald's is in a lot of places.
Right.
Krispy Kreme donuts is not in a lot of places.
Correct.
Krispy Kreme donuts are our best fresh. So now Krispy
Warm.
Kreme is going to logistically have to figure out how to get their donuts every morning into every McDonald's. Because when McDonald's says we're going to have something, and they say, hey, we're doing quarter pounder with cheese meal, or McRib, heaven forbid, the McRib is back.
Right.
Pressed pig.
Right.
Pressed pig is back. But they say, hey, the McRib is back, then every McDonald's does that. And so if they say Krispy Kreme donuts are at McDonald's, someone's going to have to figure out how to get those donuts to McDonald's every morning. That's crazy.
I don't think they care
About freshness?
the quality and freshness of the donut.
Oh, okay.
Krispy Kreme, because so to be clear, when you and I were younger and Krispy Kreme probably became a big deal, was because you could go to Krispy Kreme and literally watch your donut that you're about to shove in your mouth go around on this cool little conveyor and go under a waterfall of icing and then come out and be handed to you to the point where it's still steamy when you ripped it open. Okay, that
And it melts in your mouth.
yes. Now, I can tell you, and I don't know if you have it there, but here at HEB, I can buy a box of Krispy Kreme donuts that's
Yes.
sitting on the shelf.
Yes, we have.
So
Same.
I think
Now, do you guys have standalone Krispy Kremes there?
yes, we have standalone
Okay.
separate ones as well. I think Krispy Kreme has gotten to the point where they're like a brand, just like Little Debbie or whatever, and they just pump them out. And what I would believe, McDonald's will put them in their warmer probably before they put them in the little holder and hand it to you with your cup of coffee. I don't believe they're
Krispy
going to be
Kreme-
fresh.
So I used to work third shift at a company that had a very large cafeteria. And every day, Krispy Kreme was responsible for delivering donuts for breakfast to that cafeteria. So every morning at 4:30 a.m., the Krispy Kreme donut truck came rolling around, and those donuts were still warm off of because we have stores here, and you know, if you've never been in one, and what Hapa was describing, each store is a factory. And so you go to the store, and there's actually a sign on the front that lights up, and it says hot and fresh. Whenever they're making the donuts, it lights up and says hot and fresh. And I promise you, a lot of cars start turning off the highway into that parking lot
Immediately.
when that sign comes on. And you go, and it smells amazing, and the donuts are just like, they go through, they're making them, you watch them go down the belt, and they go through the thing, and they roll around, and the guy or girl, they hand you the donut. And so we have those here, like you said. And in that cafeteria, those donuts were delivered every morning. Well, I worked third shift. And so if there was anything left, which means I went to work at 11 p.m. and I got off at 7 a.m., which I could go down to the cafeteria at 2:30 in the morning, and I had been told they'd throw all the donuts away. And so the Krispy Kreme person told me, look, man, you want to come down here at 2:30 or 3? Those are old. Those are no good. You can have as many as you want. And I tell you, They were amazing. So if you are in a rural area and you have a McDonald's and they bring Krispy Kreme and it's not perfectly fresh, it's still better than anything else you can get.
Yeah,
so I wager
yeah,
you're not too far off. I'd wager
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. So yeah, if you want a one-stop shop to stop your heart,
Oh my gosh.
I think McDonald's is going to be it.
I remember being in high school, and my best friend Jerry and I would go on our lunch break and go to McDonald's, and it would be like a 10-piece chicken nugget, Big Mac, large fry, and a large Coke. And kill it
Yeah.
without a second thought.
Oh yeah.
Today, I eat a Big Mac, and I'm just like, bro, I need to go take a nap.
You feel it. Yeah, you feel it. Yeah,
But,
they're not known for their fresh food.
Let me also, I love that you picked this subject because I was going to ask you, have you heard about the new Krispy Kreme craze going on right now?
No.
Do you know who David Chang is?
No.
David Chang is one of the chefs that I follow very closely. He's Korean, but he has a lot of Japanese and Chinese influence, and he's one of these people that's been immensely successful with opening his own restaurants, but he's also got these products that it's microwaveware. It's meant you literally cook in your microwave. It's so it's cookware. You put whatever in there, you stick it in the microwave. You use the microwave to cook with, which is not normal, right? Microwaves normally used to just heat stuff up. Anyway,
Right.
he's got a new show, and the show is like a three guests, and they just BS, and David Chang just cooks stuff up while they talk about whatever. Right, so it's like almost just like a cook show, whatever.
Okay.
The latest craze with Krispy Kreme donuts, though, is you take a frying pan and you get it super, super, super hot, and you melt a pat of butter, and then you take a Krispy Kreme donut and you essentially pan fry the Krispy Kreme donut so it's hot and got a little bit of crunch to it. And then you take that donut and you put it in a bowl and you put a big scoop of vanilla ice cream on top.
When are we going to do this? I mean, we can do it once.
And when
we
I
can
say
get
it's the
away with
latest
this.
craze, he did it one time on his show, and for a week after that episode, people on Instagram were doing it and tagging him, and he was putting it in his reels. So his whole reel was nothing but this dessert, just over and over and
Donuts
over
with
and over
it.
and over. Yes, with ice cream on top. Yep.
Hey.
Oh, and for those of you that don't know Krispy Kreme, they only really have one donut. I think they've got 2 or 3 flavors now, but it's like one cake donut that's super soft, and that's why we're talking about, they put it on a conveyor, it goes under a waterfall of icing and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
So good. So good. I mean, it is its own thing. It's not Dunkin'. It's not. There's a lot of places, Shipley's, that do donuts. It's Krispy Kreme's its own thing.
Yeah, because
And
it's
I find that
interesting.
people who
Krispy
prefer
Kreme, I didn't know Krispy Kreme until I was probably 30 or something like that, late 20s, almost 30. And up to that point, the only donut shop I've ever been to or heard of was Dunkin'. So
Really?
yeah, but
Yeah, I didn't know Krispy Kreme. I'm gonna look it up really quick. Krispy Kreme. I remember there was like a big to do when they
like branched
decided
out.
to go outside of their area and started branching out, and there were lots of cities that were like, oh my god, we're getting a Krispy Kreme, and we'd had them here forever, and so I didn't know it was special. Let's see, Krispy Kreme, where are they headquartered? Let's see, where are you guys? Area served worldwide. Charlotte, North Carolina is where they are. So the Southeast is where they would have been starting.
Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 1937.
There you go. His favorite, the location when he learned that his favorite cigarette company, Camel Cigarettes, was headquartered in a small North Carolina city. So he was going there for the cigarettes.
Salem's,
Here's a
man.
healthier option. Here's a healthier option. So yeah, Krispy Kreme donuts at McDonald's.
I didn't catch, when are they doing that? Is that it's coming, or
Good question. Let me look.
I didn't catch a date
They
on
did a
that.
test. I do remember they did a test in Kentucky. Let's see when Yeah, for what it's worth, also, I forgot to mention this. Krispy Kreme's shares jumped more than 39% today as a result of
From
this
that
news.
announcement.
From this announcement. McDonald's didn't move, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
When is it going to happen?
I mean, I don't know how many people out there in Listenerville have had McDonald's, but have you seen how much it costs to eat at McDonald's today?
Yes, because I have 2 teenagers.
Oh yeah, very well. I always forget about that. Yeah. It's it's insane. One meal there is like anywhere, depending where you live in the country, anywhere from $10 to $20 for one meal.
Yeah, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. We used
It's
to
kinda
have,
crazy.
it doesn't say a date of when it's going to start. They just announced their
Oh,
intent
okay.
to do it. So there used to be a place here. My wife and I were talking about it the other day to our kids. There was a place here called the 25-cent hamburger stand. And it was a hamburger store. This had to be 1982, right? 81, from my memories. And it was a big A-frame building. And you literally walked up and gave them quarters, and they gave you a hamburger. And then you got fries, for a dime or whatever it was. And that's how much the world has changed just in my memory of buying a burger, because you could have probably gotten a gourmet burger back then for a much higher price.
Right.
But your cheap burgers were like a quarter. Now your cheap
Yeah.
burgers are like $6.
Yeah. Which that to me is because McDonald's used to be, that was their thing, right? That was their shtick, was they were a cheap alternative. You'd walk up and when McDonald's was created, it was like 35 cents and you got a hamburger, fries, and a milkshake.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like,
Well, and their
I don't
original
know.
burger was enough to be considered a meal.
yeah.
What was
Now
the
you've
movie?
got
There's the
a
movie.
whole pound hamburger.
Yeah, the movie. God, there's a movie about Ray Kroc. What is the movie? It's played by Michael Keaton.
Oh, The Founder.
Founder. And if you haven't watched
Yeah.
that movie, that is a pretty good movie. I watched it on a flight back from San Diego one time, and was kind of blown away. I think the story is meant to be pretty close to accurate. Obviously, there's some dramatizations, but
Sure.
it's meant to be Roy Kroc. There you go, not Ray. And it was a really interesting story of how McDonald's came to be. And if you've never watched that, it is worth a watch. I would say The Founder is worth a watch. So check that out.
Yeah.
All right. So from the deep depths of McDonald's, we're going to talk about something that we kind of had on the list for a little bit, something you and I have geeked out about.
Yeah.
And you brought it up, so we'll probably team up on talking about it. But the bloop. We're going to talk about the bloop. Tell us about the bloop, Hapa.
First of all, I didn't do the research to find this out, but I want to know how the word bloop came to be, because that seems kind of
I mean,
interesting.
Bloop
name,
to
like-
me is like bloop, right? Bloop. That's what that.
Maybe
would
that's
sound
what
like.
why they came up with it. Anyway, so to be clear, the bloop specifically, this isn't not brand new. By the way, this is something that happened. I don't remember the year. It was a couple decades ago, correct?
1997.
Yeah. So the loudest underwater sound ever recorded, and they directionalized it, but they aren't exactly positive where it originated from out there, because they heard it with the SOSA system. If you guys don't know what SOSA is, we've talked about this, I think, two episodes back. Literally a grid of underwater microphones originally meant to hear Soviet submarines out there at sea. It was donated to a nonprofit science organization, to NOAA. What is that? Northern? I don't even know what.
Oh,
NOAA
don't
stands
ask me. Here, I'll look it up.
I don't remember what it stands for. Anyway, they're a scientific organization that's out there studying the ocean. And they literally had people that were listening on the SOSA, and lo and behold, in the 90s, you had the bloop.
National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. That is
A lot more scientific than I
NOAA.
was probably going to go with it.
Yeah, I would not have gotten that. So SOSUS, when you said SOSUS,
Yep.
let's spell that for folks that want to look it up. SOSUS. It's Sound Surveillance System. And, as Happy was saying, it was originally based on passive sonar, and it was submarine detection. And this was probably, I mean, we don't know the exact beginnings of it, but it was a grid that was laid on the ocean to listen for these submarines. And at some point, the military probably got something better. I would have to assume that they got another tool that they liked better, and they took this thing and said, hey, NOAA, you want to use this to observe the bottom of the ocean? And NOAA, of course, was like, wait, what is it? You did what?
Right.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We would love to have that. Why did you have that? That was that moment of like, wait, what?
Don't ask questions. Yes or no?
And they do. They've used this to they hear whales, they hear all kinds of things on it. And the bloop was a notable sound. If you want to look it up, you can find it. It's got its own Wikipedia page and everything. It's called bloop.
The word. Look up the bloop.
Yeah, bloop. B-L-O-O-P, right? And this sound was just so loud. I'm going to let me look at the Wikipedia page. We were talking about it.
Yeah.
And you can listen to it. I would say go listen to it, especially when you listen to it on the Wikipedia page. There's one that's 16x, so you can actually hear it. But it was, they did try to triangulate it, and the sound was back in 1997. They have been speculating ever since as to what this sound was. And I think this is the kind of interesting thing. And of course, people are like, oh, we believe it's an animal, right?
Right.
We believe it's an ice quake, which is where ice falls apart. We believe it's whatever, right? And there's lots of things you could say it was, but there's never been a sound quite like it.
Yeah.
It was incredibly loud, and there hasn't been another one since. And so scientists have been spending this entire time, sure, could it be ice calving? Yeah, it could be anything, right? But the interest of, A, that the sound exists blows my mind, and B, that we can hear it blows my mind, right? Both of those things, the fact that we have a bunch of microphones in the bottom of the ocean listening for stuff like this is pretty fascinating.
Well, we talked about this a few episodes back where we talked about how much of the ocean floor isn't even mapped yet. Like, large portions of the Earth aren't even mapped yet. So that's, to me, one of the reasons why us not knowing what this sound is kind of a bigger deal, I think, than most people are going to give credit to, because God knows it could be freaking aliens or something under there, like somebody flushed the toilet wrong or something.
It's the Kraken.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing to me was, I think one of the things that they had mentioned, and some of the stuff that I've read, they talked about how prolific the sound was compared to all the other background noise that they've listened to over the last 30 years or whatever, like how loud it was. And I think that's the thing that's really caught my eye. And they talk about also how they believe it was the ice shelf, one of the ice shelves cracking. Yeah. It's like, well, I would think that maybe we would hear that more often if supposedly, we're warming and so on and so forth. I figured this is probably going to be a bigger deal, and that's why they, is a pretty big deal. They don't know what it was, They
don't know for sure, and there's no way really to know. A thing occurred, made a noise.
Yeah.
If a tree fell in the woods and no one was there to hear it, right? Well, we're there to hear it, and it's really fascinating to me because when you talk about not knowing what's at the bottom of the ocean, I used to be very into, do you remember SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence? Mm-hmm. Back in the day, and this would have been probably the early 90s, late 80s, they made screensavers. And you took the screensaver and you put it on your computer, and while the screensaver ran, they took a little bit of your CPU and they tried to process through signals that they had gotten to see if there was any anomalies that they wanted to observe. There is an entire subset of people on this planet who are looking for things like this. And that is their job. And they listen, and they sit, and they listen, and they sit. And so since 1997, this sound has been sitting out there. Someone heard it, was like, that was weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
and it's still weird.
That person was like, huh.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That was it. He was just sitting there listening and, huh.
Is that the Beatles?
What was that? Take the headphones off. Take the headphones off. Listen around the room for a minute. Put it back on.
Did you hear that? Hear what? A bloop. Bloop.
What's a bloop? I don't know. That's what it just sounded like.
Come with this thing. Yeah,
yes, I don't know.
I'm amazed.
I have talked about this a couple times too. Is like how much money we spend in exploring space and everything, and how much we don't know here. Mm-hmm. And it does kill me that we don't we don't look internally half as much, I think, as we do externally.
Well, I was reading something the other day about the what was it? I think it was the Atlantic, and they were talking about mapping the Atlantic Ocean, right, the bottom of the ocean. And there was this debate. I think it was Reddit, maybe, right? There was this thread, and it wasn't one of the meme subreddits. It was a subreddit where there were people actually talk, like, at least seemed to be having an intelligent conversation. And they were talking about how mapping the bottom of the ocean would be harder than going to space. The extremes that occur, right, when you're talking about going to space, you definitely have some extremes, right, that you have to engineer for. And then you have extremes at the bottom of the ocean. And they were talking about if you take one or the other, it's actually easier to put something in space. And I was like, okay, that's scary in so many ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the oceans are cool. Like, we don't know anything. I mean, if you've watched Monarch,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, then we know what's down there. I mean, look, you and I know what's down there. We watch Monarch.
It's true. I've seen it on TV.
On Apple TV. They won't lie to me.
Why would they lie to me?
They wouldn't lie.
Apple doesn't lie
to me. No, Tim Apple doesn't lie.
Tim Apple. Mr. Apple, specifically.
Mr. Apple doesn't lie. Yeah. So anyway, the Bloop. Anyone who's interested, y'all should check it out. It is extremely interesting. And let's talk about it more. You know, hit us up on Twitch while we're streaming, on YouTube, Twitter, whatever, and let's talk about this Bloop. To me, this is one that's interesting, and I'd love for us to have more stuff on the podcast, like the unsolved mysteries kind of stuff. I don't want to roll off into flat-out conspiracy theories and tinfoil hats, but stuff like this it's an actual event that occurred. Scientists have said this occurred. We don't know what it was. And I think that's super cool.
I think in the realm of this topic specifically, I would implore anybody listening to this to go to the Wikipedia and actually listen to it, because it's not like an aha moment. Like, don't get me wrong, you're not gonna get blown away by like you did for the Dolby Digital, sound before movies, but but it's, to me, it's just crazy that you're out there in the ocean and then this sound obviously occurs. Anyway. The Bloop, folks.
The Bloop. All right, Hapa. So we have we've reached the part where we're going to do our normal stuff.
Yeah.
So what you watching, Hapa?
Oh man, so many things.
Yeah.
So recently,
we got time.
I've started, because Amazon has the X-Files, all seasons of the X-Files. I have been enjoying. For those of you out there in the gaming community, I know this is hard for you to grasp, but there is a world outside away from your keyboard. Okay.
What? Are there bloops?
As I say, facing a keyboard, right? But
are there bloops in the wild?
I've been trying to force myself to step away from the computer more in the evenings, and I've been sitting down, and I was like, all right, the X-Files. 13 seasons or something, whatever it is. I put the X-Files on, I sit my butt in front of a different screen, away from this screen, and, just veg out and watch it. So I've been watching X-Files. We don't need to talk about that much. What we need to talk about is, once again, on Apple TV.
Crush on Gillian Anderson. Don't
oh
even.
My God. She is, even today, a lovely lady. I will say this about her. But no, if you don't have Apple TV, this is just another show to try to convince the world to get Apple TV. I don't own stock, and I should for this, but Constellation on Apple TV. By the way, and for those of you that don't know, I can never say her name correctly, and I apologize if I butcher it. But the main actress on Constellation, she was also on Prometheus. Roma Rapace? I don't know how to say her name. How do I say her name?
I don't know. I'm going to let you go with that. That's what I'm going to do.
Rapace? Rami. Let me see. Excuse me. Numi Rapace. That's how you say her name. She's another one from a long group of Swedish actors, by the way, that are, in my opinion, like coming out swinging. right?
Absolutely.
Numi Rapace, Vikander, Alicia Vikander, all the Skarsgårds, like freaking all Swedish, amazing actors. But anyway, Constellation is about as sci-fi and like X-Files ish show that you could possibly get out there, having to deal with, you know, an astronaut that goes into space. There, I don't want to ruin the show for anybody, so I won't give you a whole bunch. But an event occurs, and the world just spirals out of control from there.
Yeah,
Great show.
That show. So I just finished watching it. I binged it this week, and we had not talked about the show, right? I
Yeah.
started watching. I was 3 episodes in, and I texted you, and I was like, Have you seen this show? And you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. I
Oh,
saw that
yeah.
show. And again, I'm with you. I'm not gonna no spoilers. I'm not gonna dive into the details of the show. But what I will tell you about that show, and I want to get your feedback on this. A, it is exceedingly well acted.
Very well,
It
yeah.
is so well acted. There's this child actor twins in the show. Did you know that she was a twin?
The
The
daughters?
daughter, Alice. Yeah.
No, I
Alice.
didn't. That's awesome.
So, as good of an actor as Alice is, there's 2 of them. And I will
Yeah.
tell you, the kid in this show is
Interesting.
unbelievable. So that everyone's acting is really fantastic, and the story is really engaging. But I wasn't
wow, yeah.
ready for how creepy this show gets at times. Like just flat out creepy, and they don't. back away from it.
Rita and I watched it together. We had talked about that a little bit. How I had mentioned that it's crazy the spectrums that occur, but I was like, actually, you know, if this was a real thing, like actually happening,
Right.
it totally makes sense. And I know what we're saying is like no context to those of you that may have not seen
Yeah.
the show. With it, go watch the darn show. You know,
Watch the show, and then we can talk about it together. Then we'll hang out in Kingston, Jamaica, and talk about this.
But when you asked me if I'd seen this show, and I was like, oh yeah, I was like, and then I was like, okay, well if you like that, you need to go watch Dark on Netflix,
Yeah,
and
which
you
I
need
had
to go
seen,
watch 1899 on Netflix,
which I have not seen. So let's cover that. So Dark,
Okay.
let's cover that.
Yep,
Now
yep.
Dark. Here's what I will say about Dark. So Mel and I watched this show. Someone recommended it to us. You're gonna have subtitles, so just a heads
Yep.
up.
Yep.
Do not let that scare you away. This is a show that we would say is one of the best shows we've ever watched. And it is so good that we have said many, many, many times since then that we wish we could go back and watch it again for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. It is.
So good.
It was recommended to me in the middle of lockdown, and the
Okay.
first line out of the person that recommended to me is, they said, it's a dubbed
Yeah.
show.
Oh, you watched the dubbed.
Dubbed
we watched
version.
so you watched the dubbed version. And we watched the straight up speaking German while we.
I think I just
We,
turned
we read the
subtitles. Subtitles are on, but I think I just turned dubbing on or off. I think you could do that in Netflix. I think the default is the text. But I immediately was like, no, I'm not going to watch it. They were like, look, they dub it perfectly with the German, like, because they're speaking German. It's a German
Yeah, they're
German
speaking
group
German,
of
right.
actors, actresses, and everything. But it's to almost to the point you can't tell that it's dubbed. Like how did I was like, okay, well, and then let me tell you, 1 or 2 episodes, you're in there, and you ain't leaving.
You completely forget that you can't understand what these human beings are saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
You completely forget. That show is so good. Speaking of dubbing, there's a show that I've been watching lately, Shogun.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think it's FX is who I've been watching it on
Yep.
Hulu, but I think FX did it. And we've been watching it with subtitles, so we wanted to see the original Japanese actors speaking Japanese.
Right.
And we've been watching with subtitles. But the other day when we were watching an episode, we're like, let us just see how good the dubbing is. And we thought we were going to be in for like the meme of humor. It was really good. And so
Yeah.
I'm guessing that with the kind of introduction of these international streaming services and they're making shows that they know are going to travel worldwide,
Yeah.
that they're getting better at voice talent dubbing. It's just
Maybe, yeah.
I was very impressed. So maybe with Dark I'll go back and watch some of the dubbing.
Yeah,
okay, so, but
they
you also
did-
said
they
another
did
show.
good
You
job.
s-
1899.
What is
It's
this show? I
another
don't know anything
show
about
on
this
Netflix.
Okay.
Same exact cast. as Dark. Same production company, same director,
Okay.
everything. Very much in the same realm as Dark. Now, all three of these shows, Constellation, Dark, and 1899, I will give you this little tidbit. They are all based around multiple universes, time travel-y kind of sci-fi. 1899, think Ghost Ship.
Uh-huh.
I'll just leave it. I'll just say that. Just Ghost Ship.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. And 1899 was a show much like Dark. The last episode happened and the credits rolled, and I was like, oh.
So
I want
it's
more.
done?
I want more. Yeah. I haven't heard anything if they've got a second season or anything like that. But yeah.
Is it wrapped up or is it cliffhanger?
Oh, definitely cliffhanger. Definitely.
Oh no.
Yeah. Which unfortunately Netflix does a lot.
Yeah, and then they just cancel the show.
So annoying. Yeah.
I'll give you a
And then finally, the show that I just started watching that I once again, I feel like I'm just advertising for Apple TV all day long, but
it's good stuff, man.
Manhunt. Manhunt is a new show that they released that's basically telling the story of Lincoln unfortunately getting assassinated.
Yep.
And John Wilkes Booth, how he's running and how they caught him, and like the conversation that happened internally in the government and everything at the time. It's very, very, very good show. Very well acted. So,
Yeah, I saw some previews for that one. That one was one it's definitely on our list too.
yeah, it's worth it.
check
Worth to
out.
watch.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to checking that out. Well, cool. Yeah, so you got Constellation, Dark, 1899, Manhunt, and that's a good set for sure.
A lot of good
I would
shows
have to
coming
recommend.
in the future too, man. So
Apple TV, I'm telling you.
hell yeah.
I'm telling you, Apple TV, it's you don't expect it. If you're a science fiction fan, you don't necessarily expect it when you get into Apple TV because as much as they made a big deal about Apple TV existing, they haven't really.
Yeah,
They don't
no.
trumpet it a ton. And
Honestly, for their production value, I don't think they advertise it at all. Like,
Yeah,
because I would have
cheaper.
never guessed Apple TV was it's the cheapest. Like,
yeah,
you know. But anyway, I'm glad you mentioned Shogun. Everybody's telling me that I need to watch Shogun. I was like, I don't have Hulu or FX or whatever, so I've been like lately thinking, I just cut back on all my streaming services, but maybe I'll.
I'm really curious how. So it's feudal Japan, and
Yeah.
I'm really curious. It seems like the show goes to great lengths to accurately portray feudal Japan, and I really would love to read some review or information from an expert on the matter because I'm fascinated with feudal Japan and the feudal system that Japan had for quite some time, which we shogun, a warrior king, basically warrior emperor, and but that's where we got samurai. That's where we got a lot of the codes of ethics that we talk about nowadays came from chivalry, which was the knight's code of ethics, and it came from Bushido, right, which is the code of ethics that Japanese samurai were expected to follow. So it's really interesting, and it's fascinating to watch when people talk about honor, what that means, when people talk about giving the word, what that means, right? It's a different concept than what we have in most of the things we watch these days.
So you
definitely
know
good.
where
I'll
the
let
show
you know.
came from?
It's a series of books, but I don't know a ton about them.
So yes, originally it was a book. There was another movie that was in 1980 or 1979. I can't remember that originally. Oh no, excuse me. It was a mini series in 1980. I remember. The only reason I remember this is because my mom and dad, when I was really young, got super excited because they got the show on cassette, so we watched the show. Anyway, but yes, it's from a book, and it's
tapes?
old VHS tapes. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
But the actual story about the Shogun is supposedly based in truth. The historical events that went on on the Japanese side were actually what was happening real world in Japan at the time with the Portuguese and everything going on. Basically, Japan saying, We're Japan. Y'all are whoever y'all are. Leave us alone. You know, in Western society, saying you're gonna come into the world. And so if you guys don't know, it's actually a really freaking cool story. And if you get to read any books or historical stuff about that time in Japan, all the way up to the modern times, it's a crazy story how things changed and royalty changed and so on and so forth. Like that whole. Anyway, sorry, I ran it on a little bit, but that stuff is exciting to me. So
then you should definitely check this out. I'd love to know when you do.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to check it out, so far I've been impressed with it. I'll say that. Now,
yeah,
you can't binge it
I haven't
because
heard
it's
anything bad.
Yeah, I definitely haven't. But you cannot binge it because it is not all out, right? So it's an FX show, so you're getting it 1 week at a time or whatever. So
Right.
might be worth waiting. And then, you know, it's like some other things. I think Peacock, recently we paid for 1 month, right? And it's like, oh, yeah, we'll pay $15 because we want to watch this show,
Right.
And it's almost worth it. So, but if you do all the streaming services, you're going to end up paying the same thing you had been paying for DirecTV, you know, $160 or $180 or whatever you were going to pay.
Yeah.
You'll end up paying that much. It gets up there pretty quick, so you have to pick and choose, for sure. For sure.
What you been listening to, man?
So I go back to every Friday I do a new music playlist, and this last week's playlist had some amazing albums on it. Gary Clark Jr. has a new album out. What is the name of his album? JPEG Raw. I will tell you, I'm a Gary Clark Jr. fan. I think at this point, having heard his work, it would be hard for him to make something I didn't think was amazing.
Right.
So I'll say that's a good album. But on this playlist, it was not my favorite. So that tells you if that gives you a starting point. Yeah, there's an act called Waxahachie. If you don't know Waxahachie, it's named after a place here in Alabama, and she's a folk country. I do think you would enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautifully written album and incredibly well performed. So Waxahachie, check Waxahachie out. But then Hapa. There's an album, and it's from a band called Elbow. Have you ever heard of Elbow?
I have not heard of Elbow.
So I'm going to bet that Rita may have heard of Elbow. Elbow is a British band. They've been around for a while. They've released so many albums, and their albums have all been like top 15 whatevers. But there was a video that was posted on my Discord server this past week by our friend Classic.
Sure.
Classic Clip, right? And he posted this video, and it was this older British gentleman who was a sound engineer talking about why even if you go to the greatest lengths possible to have the most amazing audio equipment and stream the highest quality files, you're not going to get a great sound quality.
Right.
And he was talking about the reason why is music production has changed so much since 1995. He actually points back to the Oasis What's the Story Morning Glory album, where the loudness wars began. And you and I have had conversations about compression and stuff before, and you've glossed over and been like, seriously, dude. But at the end of the day, the way music production works is everyone says, you walk in, the band wants to record, and they say, I want it to sound like that. And they point at some hit or some song that they think was cool. And so then the sound engineer, the producer, the mixing, the mastering is all done to make it sound like that. I will tell you, this album by Elbow, which is called Audio Vertigo, all caps, is so well manicured and produced and performed that it takes me to that spot where I've told you I like listening to albums start to finish.
Right.
And it is kind of that realization of that, right? Where that band obviously said, this is meant to be listened to top to bottom. We put an album together. We didn't do 5 songs and then whatever else we could get on here. This was an album. And there's some stuff on there that is just unbelievable. It's indie music. You know, if you like indie, they're considered indie, but it's alternative. It's post-pop. It's if you like Dave Matthews Band, it's got a lot of that kind of feel where it's kind of got the progressive jazz fusion stuff that goes on as well. And the lyrical writing is just unbelievable. So yeah, Elbow is who I've been listening to. Audio Vertigo is my current obsession, and so something worth checking out for sure. And I definitely think you should check out Waxahachie if you haven't. I think you would enjoy that.
Yeah, I made a note of it because I looked at the album cover and I was like, it actually looks like a lot of music that I have on my list. So
Yeah, I think you would dig it.
check
And of
that
course,
out.
Gary Clark Jr. is Gary Clark Jr.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. Good stuff. There's also a band called Gossip. If you're not familiar with Gossip, you should check them out. The name of their album is Real Power. Very interesting act. Worth checking out. And then the last song or the last band on that playlist is a band called Blanket, and they did an album called Ceremonia. It's also very good. So I would say this is probably the best playlist I've had this year. So yeah, man. So
All them
Hapa,
spring albums coming out.
I know, it's so nice. You go through, starting in November, 1st of November, you go through a point of time where you only get Christmas albums, and then no one releases anything until like February, middle of February. So it's so nice for me to be in a spot where I'm picking albums
Brand new stuff.
instead of just taking anything that's out. So it's nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gary Clark Jr., Waxahachie Elbow, and Gossip. Just check it out.
Fantastic.
So Hapa, what you been playing, man? We got to talk about games for a minute.
Man. So I've been all over the place with what I've been playing lately. There's been a mixture of a little bit of everything. Helldivers 2 is still definitely being played quite a bit by me, but I'm also kind of funny because Rita's always bugging me to try to hop on and play Helldivers. It's a 4-player game no matter what. So typically you could jump in by yourself or 2s or 3s, but eventually someone else randomly may join your group till you have a group of 4. Cooperative gameplay and such. And I get really annoyed by most people, as one does, so I typically don't play that game too often if I'm by myself.
Really annoyed by most people.
Yeah, most people.
2024.
But so like when my brother has a night off from work or whatever and he hops on, Rita will instantly be like, your brother's playing Helldivers, and we'll go and I'll hop on and join him.
Is it on Steam? And so Rita's
It is on Steam. Yeah. Oh, 100%. She probably get notification on her phone. Probably she's away from the computer. But we've been playing that, and then recently, if you guys are out there in content creator land, if you've ever heard the name Chaos Machine, he's a Greek Twitch streamer, a lot of energy.
He's the Greek god of citadels.
Indeed. A lot of energy, super entertaining, even if you don't play World of Warships. He's a World of Warship streamer. But I pulled him into War Thunder, which is tanks, pretty quote-unquote realistic. I say it in quotes because it's still a video game, but I pulled him into playing regularly, and it's awesome to be playing a game with that gentleman. But other than that, not a whole lot new. I've been trying to hold off because we have a lot of games that are going to be dropping later in the year. So I'm trying not to buy other games every other second. So
there are some games coming out that I've been playing Last Epoch. And I messaged you and Deacon last night.
Yeah.
Well, I just rage quit Last Epoch, right? And that was the first time that had happened. I did go back and play it, and I got to get my attitude right. So that's a great game.
What was it specifically? I didn't catch what set you off.
Yeah, so ARPGs, which the genre is action RPG. So you think Diablo, games like that. Path of Exile, whatever. And by design, what those games are is you play through some amount of story. And as you're doing that, you're actually building your character and getting new skills and getting your build figured out, right? And you're just it's really, the story is just your tutorial on how to play your character. In the case of the Blizzard games, the story is fantastic, right? So it's a lot of fun just to play through the story, but really in that genre of game, you're playing through the story just to get your character kind of leveled up, and it's your training.
Yeah.
So the real point of those games comes after the story, right? It's the in-game content, which is where Diablo 4 kind of fell apart for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the in-game content, whether you're talking about Path of Exile or Last Epoch or Diablo, what you're really doing is just grinding for gear and upgraded loot. And there's an entire subset of humans who think that's a horrible way to spend your time, right? It's just not fun.
Yeah.
And there's another set of humans who love to min-max and do the math and get 3% more out of this thing. And,
Yep.
I can go just a little bit further than anybody else can. But in those games, what happens is once you get to the end game, you will at some point realize that you have to grind for gear. And the way that happens is your stuff is not good enough.
Right.
And what that means is you walk into a random spot and you get one-shotted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, well, that was weird. And then you do it again, you get one-shotted again. It's like, wait a minute. I can't do anything. It's
Right.
like, nope. You have hit a wall until you go back 3 steps.
Oh,
and you go,
God. Yeah.
You go get 2% more frost resistance or, ice resistance, whatever the
Yeah.
thing is. And it's
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me? No, I'm not.
Now it all
You're
makes
dead again.
sense. Now
Right.
it all makes
and
sense.
I was just, and the thing about those games is, an ARPG, I am not the kind of person who loves to grind for an unlimited amount of time for a very random drop. That's
right.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
usually how I like to play games. But I do like to play mindless games.
Yeah.
Right? There's times where you want to sit and just watch the colors change.
Yeah.
Right on the screen. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to think. I'm not a sweaty try hard. There's really no reason to try that hard. And that game had become that for me. I was like, oh man, I get to just kind of chill, listen to some music, blast through for an hour or so and go to bed. Right? It's just
Right.
relaxing. And so when you're 45 minutes into your hour and you're finally, coming down and it's like, dude. It's like, wait, what? Dude.
And now you're
But I
getting
don't wanna-
angry and annoyed. Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to die.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I'm out. And so that's why I rage quit. But, I went back and I was like, I just need to go back 3 steps. Who cares?
Yeah.
And you go back 3 steps and you start doing the thing again. And you're just rolling over everything and thousands of enemies are exploding in front of you. And,
Right.
and then it's fun again. So, yeah, that I had rage quit because it was like, my gosh, my gear won't get me past this point.
Yeah, I definitely. There's definitely a group of folks out there in Game Land that don't mind playing every day, all day for a week straight just to get 1% better bubbles
To get a
coming out of
hammer.
the top of your head or something.
Right. And that's not my normal. My normal playing mode is closer to a skill-based game where
Sure.
I don't mind playing the game over and over again, but I want the challenge to be other humans.
Yeah,
with,
yeah,
whatever that entails, and it's like I'm better or worse
yeah.
each time I play it. And so, spending all that time to get one hammer, but it's not. There's 17,462 hammers in the game, and I got to get this one to drop. But all the 19 stats on the hammer are all completely random.
Right.
I got to get it to drop with exactly the right mix, and it's like, like the.
Hence rage
For
quit.
me, it's yeah, exactly. So I
Yeah,
rage
for
quit.
sure.
But
Totally get it now. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, but I am looking. There's some games this year that are coming out. You and I have talked about PAX Day.
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for that. There's a Dune game coming out that I'm
Yep.
so excited about. Like, there's so much this year if games stay on track, and if people will listen to Larian's DEO. I
Oh
don't even
my
know the guy's
gosh.
name, but his quotes this week were just like popping off, man.
I think we need to put that on the subject list for specifically to talk about
Just
because
have that as a conversation. I think that's
well,
a good idea.
between him and the CEO for Helldivers, I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, we could talk for quite a while. Anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting to put those guys up here, and then put the CEO of like the Warner Brothers
Yep.
gaming division, where we talk like the difference, and
Yeah.
that'd be fascinating. Yeah, we probably can have some pretty good hot takes on some of that. I think.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right, Hapa. Let's do. We got about 20 minutes, so let's do.
Yeah.
Let's review some of Hapa's rules and talk about where they came from.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've mentioned it more than a couple times now, but I do have Hapa's rules for living. Those were created just throughout my life. I was like, hey, I need to write that down. That's a good rule. I'd hear someone say something
Yep.
where I'd come across quotes or something along those lines. We listed all those out across, I think, 3 or 4 podcasts in the past year, which, by the way, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, keep rolling. Sorry, getting sidetracked. Scrolling. We got to the end of those rules, and Seven had asked me if I was interested in maybe talking about how I came around some of those rules or how I thought of those rules. I was like, yeah, of course, because every one of these is kind of a story, right? Something that in my life I came to. And so here we are. I think we're on the third set maybe now. We're going to only do like 5 or 6 in a row just because if I do 10, you guys might get a little bored. But either way, rule number 12 is be selective of who you lower your guard for. I think this is something that if you're younger getting older and if you're older looking back, you probably can identify with, because I've always talked about how our friends groups typically tighten up and get smaller as we get older. I think that's perfectly normal, just because people have different things going on in their lives, whatever the case may be. But lowering your guard to people that you really trust or letting people see who you actually are is a lot bigger step to some. And I think it's kind of a big deal that we identify that. We need to be a little bit more careful with that specifically, because you're you, and you should be happy and have a good life, and that's one of those things I think that helps you get there. 13 was if you are emotionally walled up, take a chance every now and then. So that's almost exact contradictory of the prior rule, because it's the whole I don't want to go anywhere, but I still want to be invited, right? Like kind of rule.
I feel that. I feel it.
Like I have zero intention of RSVPing that I'm coming, but still send me the invitation, okay?
Bill,
you know,
why are you so rude for not inviting me? Yeah, I know that one.
14, don't take for granted those in your life. I mean, I think this is also a one that you tend to, as you get a little older, kind of becomes a bigger deal, and unfortunately, you typically realize those things when you're a little bit later as well. You know, I don't think enough people talk with their relatives, enough and all that stuff. Like Perfect Commercial, somebody had said, how often do you see your folks? Oh, we see each other at Christmas, New Year's or Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. He's like, oh, so 2 days out of 365 days a year. So you literally see your parents and they're important to you 2 days out of the entire year. Like, if you're 18, that means you literally saw your parents 16 times or 36 times, over the course of your entire life. Like, no, that's, seems kind of crazy when you put it in those contexts. So, but anyway, remember that things aren't what makes a life important. So that the important part about that line is things. This was something that was a big deal to me being in the military, because we moved around a lot. And when you're in the military and you're moving around a lot, for those of you that have been in, you might recognize the whole idea of, well, I don't want to buy nice furniture because it's probably going to get broken because we're going to have to move it so many times, right? So I found that I actually, double-edged sword, because you want to have nice things, but at the same time you don't care because you're moving all the time. It taught me to enjoy my environment and the people around me a little bit more because of the fact that I was not trying to focus on things so much in my life. So 17 is if you're going to do something, do it right. I mean, that's anybody that's probably in the age group that you and I are in has probably heard that a million times. Obviously being in the military also, that's like very important. Obviously, if you're doing something in the military, it's purposeful and you need to do it right? Because lives might get lost. So,
my dad always said, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And
for sure.
I never, I think until I ended up doing what I do now, which we may talk about another time, I never really put the importance on the first part of that or the last part of that. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right? You hear one and you kind of let that drive what the other one is. But the whole thing is if it's worth doing. In other words, if you're not willing to do it right, don't do it. It's a waste of your time.
Yep,
right? It's not
100%.
worth doing. And it never really struck me because it was my dad, and I didn't get to choose what I did when I was around him. So to me, it was like I didn't get to decide if it was worth doing. So it was like basically just do it right. Don't half-ass, two things, whole-ass one thing, right? Like that.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, yes, that to me, that's a really good one.
I love that you put that into perspective of most of the time I wasn't doing what I wanted, so I might as well just do it right.
I didn't get to choose. Right. I guess it's worth doing. It's saving you $50.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yes, I will chop another cord of wood in July. That sounds like a great idea.
It's like we need it right now.
Yeah, it's 116 degrees out here, but sure, I'll go chop wood. Why not?
And then the last one is chase your dreams. Don't ever let someone tell you you cannot do something. And I know for those of you with kids, like that's, and I'm sure growing up, we heard a lot of that from our parents of, you could do whatever you want. Where this one specifically came from was I did a lot of things in my naval career that were outside the norm. Like people said, you can't do that. Like that's not going to, you'll never get to do that. No one's going to approve that, blah, 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 blah. And here I am, I kept doing it, Case in point, when I was stationed in San Diego, the normal tour at the time was 4 years at that command, and then you'd go somewhere else. Well, my goal was to do a deployment at San Diego in the Pacific side, split, go to Norfolk, the largest naval base in the world, and do a float from there and go see the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, and then split and go to Asia and so on and so forth. I planned on doing that my whole career. Well, everyone told me at the time, no one's going to approve your split request. Nobody's going to say, no, you only get to do 2 years here. Why would we do that, right? Well, it just so happened I worked for the commanding officer on that ship, and I was loved by him, and I dropped it in his ear that I had this request going. Guess what? I got approved. I went to the East Coast, and then when that was done on the East Coast, they always told you, well, if you've crossed the coast, the Navy will never pay for you to come back. Well, guess what I did? I came back and was stationed in San Diego again. So, and that's just one example of the things that I talk about. But, like, don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something, you won't succeed at something. At that point, you're the one that's kind of keeping yourself from doing that. So,
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, don't stop yourself.
Yeah, which is you should never want to do that, right? That's just silly. So,
Yep.
Anyway,
well, good stuff, man.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're probably going to end a little bit early, and I want to cover two quick things. So our next scheduled podcast will be on April the 9th. So that would be 2 weeks from tonight, which is Tuesday, March the 26th, 2024. So we schedule these. We try to do them every 2 weeks. We do from time to time, usually based on my schedule. Something went wrong, we may punt to Thursday. What I will say about April the 9th that is notable is April the 8th is an eclipse here in North America. Go look at it.
yeah.
Like if you don't take a lot from what happened, I talk about, look up, experience what's around you, and take a minute to appreciate what you can see in the sky still. You can see much less than you could when I was a kid. And, living in Alabama and you living in Texas, there are places we can go to in a decently driven distance where we can still see a lot of the sky. And it seems like, oh my gosh, look at all the sky that we can see and all the stuff that we can see. And it's actually not that dark there, right? There's still a lot of light pollution. So take a minute on April the 8th, go see the eclipse. And at some point, and you and I are going to be talking about this, at some point there's a cosmic explosion occurring that is going to be so strong that it will appear in the night sky as another star.
Yeah.
And it's actually two stars colliding. And so we know the neutrons have already hit us. Those are here, right? So we know it's coming. It'll be between now and September. So you and I are going to be talking about that. Really the encouragement there is go out, look around, look up, do something, experience the world. The world's a beautiful place, right? So probably
please put your phones down and go out there.
Yes. Put your phones down.
Not right now. You're listening to the podcast. Jesus.
8 hours and 30. Well, you can put your phone down. Keep your AirPods in.
Sure.
8 hours and 39 minutes a day for the Utes.
How crazy is that? Dude. A typical workday is 8 hours. So what are you doing?
That is mind blowing. I'm gonna have to digest that. You and I are gonna talk about that later because I just gotta figure out where that fits in my head.
And here's the thing that I can't impress enough on people either is if your kids are spending 8 to 9 hours on a phone, when's the last time you thought about your kids' activity on a phone or a tablet or whatever? Like consciously you might be like, what are they doing? Oh, they're watching Netflix or whatever. Okay, no big deal. I'll go back, whatever. But I mean, consciously think about it. Like, what could they be doing? They could be doing any number of things other than spending almost 9 hours. 9 hours. So there's days that I'm not even awake that long.
No, it's what 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, 8 hours of pleasure, right?
Right.
Is the divide, and 9 hours of it on the phone. Wow, you're losing an hour somewhere, even in the most optimistic scenario.
And there have been actual studies that have now, the data is starting to collect, that has proven that the folks that are on phones and tablets at that much, it is actually having an effect on their mental well-being, like and not in a positive manner either.
Absolutely, I completely believe that. We talked last time about people falling in love with AI. Last podcast, right? And it's just, there's a lot there, a lot to unpack. It would be a good time to be someone with 2 PhDs, one in psychology and one in sociology.
For sure, right? Yeah. You got a lot to go look at right now.
Yeah, a lot of things to be thinking about. Hey, if you're that person, hit us up. Maybe we'll have you on the podcast at some point.
Heck yeah.
If anyone with 2 PhDs is listening to us right now, I am sorry, first of all. And second of all, come talk with us.
Right? Hell yeah. Lord knows we could use a actual brain in between these two.
Yeah, we'll say stupid stuff. You say smart stuff. It'll be great.
It'll be fine. We'll even each other out. It'll be great.
Yeah,
it'll
be awesome.
So, Seven, where can people find you if they want to find you on the interwebs?
So if people want to find me, I've had this name. It's S3VYN. Yes, it was the 90s. Things were weird. But I've had this name since like 1996. And so what I'll say is pretty much anywhere that you find that name, it's me. I do look at Twitter, although much less because of the weird things like on my phone.
Yeah.
The weird things I'm getting pushed is like as if they're notifications, and it's like, you should see this. And I'm like, I would never want to read that. There's never been a moment I wanted to read that. You're completely missing the boat. So, but I do keep up with Twitter. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me at VII.TV, so there's emails and whatnot. But you can also find me here on YouTube, and we read the comments and we keep up with stuff. So I'm available. I'm around. What about you, Mr. Hapa Fodder? Where can people find you?
Hapa_fodder anywhere on the internet that I've found anyway is typically me. So HAPA_FODDER.
Just go find those little corners, like, oh no, corner of the internet. Gotta register my name.
I gotta get my name in there and register it. I never remember this website, but
No, my name is on some of the most unscrupulous websites out there, because when they came out, I was like, I don't know what it is, but I gotta get my name on it.
I will say I don't have what's Zuck's version of Twitter? Threads. I don't have a Threads account. That's the only
Threads? Yeah. You don't have a Threads account?
I don't have a Threads account.
That one was linked to Instagram, right? And you couldn't unlink it once it was done.
Or if you do, it deleted your Instagram.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
And Twitter was Twitter, right? And then Elon Musk bought it. Now it's X or whatever we call it. But it's like Twitter was like its
Twitter X, whatever.
Facebook was Facebook, right? And then you had Reddit, right? Which just IPO'd, by the way. Did a really good job IPOing. Congratulations to those folks. I know there's some people who don't love that idea, but they did IPO. And then all the other social media sites outside of like the ones that are very niche are kind of gone. And so like Twitter's, the format that Twitter follows, right? The very short message timeline format, that's kind of the only major site that does that, and Facebook kind of does their thing. So even when Facebook said, hey, here's Threads, it's like,
nah, we're good. I mean, it's getting pushed in my face through Instagram and Facebook every day, all day. Literally every other notification, or as you're scrolling Reels, it'll be an advertisement for Threads. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not doing the Threads. Go away. But yeah, I don't know. Why don't they call it Y? They call Twitter X. Why don't they just call it Y?
Oh, it's interesting. Social media, now that you mention it, I'm thinking about it. Truth Social IPO today, too. Yeah, I have lots of thoughts about that, as you can imagine. But I would... It's interesting. Social media is interesting. Technology is interesting, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about there as time goes forward.
we're going to be revisiting a lot of these topics
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
as things change.
It'll be interesting to see how the markets respond to Reddit and to Truth Social, right? These social media sites IPOing. They're in the hands of the market now.
Yeah.
And Wall Street Bets, I'm sure, is going to have a say.
Oh, yeah. And they always will. Anytime it's
They
another
do.
avenue for any kind of advertising going on.
Yep.
So, folks, this has been Hapa S3VYN. This was Morning Glory Fizz. It's a great way to close out
Was
the
indeed.
podcast. Again, hopefully we'll see you in about 2 weeks. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Laugh, smile. Make someone else laugh and smile. Too much craziness out there in the world to propagate it. Get out, touch some grass. Maybe get some vitamin D from the sun. You know? I've been doing that, by the way. I've actually, in
You
the
been touching
mornings, I will let the dog out, and I'll go step out in the grass and just kind of hang out there for a while.
Oh, Mel will swear by it. She'll take her shoe socks off, stand in
I'm
the
telling
grass
you.
for a while. She swears by the rejuvenating properties of doing
Hey,
such.
there's been scientific evidence to prove that grounding actually does help the human body. I'm just
I wouldn't
saying.
argue with it. She's got a black belt. I don't argue with her.
Yeah, you don't want to argue with that. That's bad. That's
I
bad.
don't argue with her.
Anyway, folks, we'll see y'all next time.
Bye, everybody.